You've achieved a lot. You have a stable job, maybe even a home, a nice family. You look perfect on the outside, but still you feel like in the inside something's missing. Something about life is not right. And the sense of feeling good enough is something that a lot of high-functional immigrants struggle with. Feeling not good enough is not your fault. It's actually your nervous system's response to the changes in life, to adaptation. Let's talk about what is high-functional immigrants, because that term can sound very unfamiliar to a lot of us. To understand high-functional immigrant, we need to first understand the basic needs of human being. And the best model in the psychological world is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Briefly, it's a hierarchy that looks like a triangle, like a pyramid shape. From the bottom is the basic needs that every one of us want. These are safety, these are physiological needs, for example, having a place to stay, having basic water, food, reproduction needs, all of that. And a lot of high-functional immigrants, these are no longer the things you're concerned about. You already figure out your job, you already figure out your immigration process, the legal document, you might have a green card, you might have permanent residency. You don't need to worry about the safety anymore. You are safe here. So once you met the basic needs in the Maslow's hierarchy, you go up. Then it becomes friendship and belonging, self-esteem, and eventually the top part of Maslow's hierarchy is self-actualization. So these are what we're talking about when you feel that you're not good enough. It's not because you don't make enough money. It's because you don't feel belonged, you don't feel great about yourself, or you haven't fulfilled what you truly want to fulfill. In fact, if you are an immigrant, feeling belonged and making friends can feel very, very difficult because everything's familiar to you in the past are lost. Now you have to get used to this new society. And for a lot of us that were not brought up in this new country, it's a very hard mental shift because as a kid, we have this blueprint of what the world is like. That is the home environment, the society we grew up in, the familiar home culture that we lived in for a long time. Then when we brought into this new country, all the blueprint changed. So that added a lot of stress to our mind. And I think it's especially true if your original culture is more different than the new culture that you're in. For example, if you were brought up in an Eastern society and now you're going to a Western society, the difference is harder to navigate because they are almost polar opposite in a lot of ways. One difference that we always mention is in the Eastern society, collectivism is always valued. We think about ourselves as a group. You consider others' feeling. You try to be reserved instead of stand out, trying to show off. However, in the Western society, individualistic values are more important. So people are encouraged to pursue what they want in their own life. You need to stand up for yourself. You need to show the world what you want. So these two values can be very contradictory to each other. And it's really hard for a person to grow up in the collectivistic mindset to now adapt to an individualistic mindset and navigate everything in between. So these differences create a lot of internal voices inside of us, doubting us whether we're doing the right thing. Maybe you're trying to adapt to the new culture, trying to speak out, trying to be proud, but at the same time, there might be a voice in your mind asking you, hey, maybe you should go back a little bit. Maybe you should be more humble instead of trying to brag yourself. But from a Western standpoint, maybe you're not actually bragging yourself. You're just being proud. You're just being confident. It's a very tiny difference in the way we describe a same behavior using the Western value and the Eastern value. While we're navigating the differences internally and trying to adapt from one culture to another, the external world can also cause a lot of stress for us. I think almost all of us has experienced microaggression in any form. A lot of time when I feel like I experience microaggression, I have friends and family members who will comment that I'm being too sensitive. And I think it might be the same for a lot of you who's watching this video and that you've heard similar comments. But I want to point out that your feeling about being treated unfairly, being threatened, being not seen is valid. A lot of time we feel like we are being treated differently. but we can't quite pinpoint why the other person is treating us differently. And this just creates a weird internal feeling of something feels off. We don't know what exactly is off, or we can only suspect, I think this is what this person is thinking. It's really hard to get a definitive answer of whether the other person's intentionally or unintentionally treating you a different way. But regardless of their intention, as the receiving end, when you feel like you're being treated differently, disrespectfully, a lot of time it is a sign of microaggression. And it's important for us to identify it. Doesn't mean that you have to immediately stand up for yourself, yell at the other person, stop doing that to me. But it's just a quiet recognition of, okay, at this moment, I am being treated unfairly. And my feeling of anger, my feeling of disappointment is valid. And one example that I experience a lot is when I first meet someone, people hear my accent and immediately they will ask me, are you born here? Where are you actually from? Even when I say, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. These are the moment of you don't quite know how to feel. It's really hard to say the person is trying to offend me, because a lot of times, sometimes people are just genuinely interested in it. But to me, I just feel like it's weird. And to this day, I don't think I fully know how to name that feeling. It's kind of like this suggesting, I'm picking you out because you are different. You are speaking a language with an accent, or you look differently, or your name sounds different. That seemingly unintentional remark can make us more aware that we are different and reinforcing the belief that we don't belong here. So I think it's important to recognize that and validate your feeling and tell yourself, I do belong here. I am different. Yes, but I do belong here. And when high-functional immigrants are struggling between these internal stress and external stress, it's very common for us to experience imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome simply means that you believe you are not good enough, although you are, from an objective external point of view. This is a very common feeling that's shared by a lot of humans, but it sucks. It doesn't mean it's something that we should just take for granted, right? We need to learn how to cope with it. So how does imposter syndrome show up specifically in immigrant population? For me, it shows up when I have the thought of, am I actually behind? Or is this imposter syndrome just voices in my head? And you might have a different way of thinking about it, but for me, I think it is both. Because I truly believe that we always can improve. We can always be better. And I enjoy growing. I enjoy learning more. So I reserve 30% of that feeling of good enough, as it is because there are things I want to work on. Now, it does not mean I'm not worthy of good opportunities. That does not mean I have a low self-esteem. It simply means that I recognize no one is perfect and there's always room for improvement. So let's set that 30% of the real things that you can work on aside. And what's left is the 70% of your real imposter syndrome thinking. So these are the thought of, I am not good enough. I don't deserve this job. Even when you get this job, even when you're admitted by a program with scholarship, you have this doubt in your mind. Do I actually deserve it? Do I lie to them? And a lot of people actually admit that they value this kind of thinking because it kept them motivated. The thought of I'm not good enough is creating this sense of perceived danger of me losing my job, me losing whatever I have. So as long as this blindness here keep chasing me, then I will feel more motivated to work harder. This is self-improvement based on fear. However, you can have the same work, same self-improvement happen based on the love you have for yourself, based on your value, based on your true need for self-improvement. And what I learned over and over again is seeing your values, seeing your hard work and advantage as it is, won't diminish your ability to push yourself and encourage yourself to go forward. It actually helps it act as an incentive because you see that when you work hard, you value yourself for doing that. You see an outcome. So you're more motivated, more likely to work hard in a good mood. It's your heart truly wants to work hard instead of it's based on fear. I fear failure. That's I work hard. The result seems to be the same. We both work hard in the scenario. But why do you have to make yourself miserable and anxious all the time when you can enjoy your work, when you can feel good about working hard? If anything I just shared felt familiar to you, I encourage you to take a break, pause for a second, and think about it. Maybe reflect a little bit on why do you think you're feeling this way? What is your percentage of how much percent is I am actually not good enough? What percent is the imposter syndrome? And how does imposter syndrome show up in your life? This invisible weight of imposter syndrome is not your fault. A lot of time it's the cultural baggage that we carry when we're transitioning to a new culture. And it's our nervous system telling us that we need to take a second to adjust. It's a perfectly normal immigrant experience. And in the next video, I will share more about why is it normal for immigrants to feel that way? And what are some ways we can work with it to prevent it from reaching our full potential so that we can have a better life in this new country, in this new world? I also want to encourage you to leave a comment about what feels the most heaviest to you in your life right now. Is there anything you want to share with us? Something that you need support from us? Let's carry the burden together and let's naming it together.